Father in heaven, I am grateful again for all the wonderful lessons you're giving us here at Bella Vita, for the beautiful weather outside. It's absolutely gorgeous. And Lord, thank you for the fresh air and the sunshine, and thank you for the good water that comes from this well. Thank you for the live food, the juices. Thank you for the herbs. Thank you for all the cleansing agents. Now bless us with your Holy Spirit as we continue in our study about health. And we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, I want to begin on page 69, and we'll wrap up this section in our syllabus on natural hygiene. And I want to begin by reading the paragraph at the bottom. Health reform offers to replace this wretched and dangerous system of medical practice, doctors who use drugs, by one which is wonderfully simple and eminently efficient. This system, known as the hygienic system, has saved the lives of thousands of individuals whose friends and physicians had given them up to die. All we ask is careful and candid investigation of the principles advocated. All right? Then let's move to number 6. It says our bodies are self-healing. The human body is a self-sufficient organism, self-preserving and self-healing. Diseases are caused by improper life practices and dietary indiscretions. Healing is a biological process in which our task is to assist the body in establishing healthy conditions so that the body may expel impurities. There's that word impurities again. Number 7, a toxic bloodstream, one cause of all disease. Toxemia means poisons in the blood, which results in disease. Germs or viruses are not the sole causative factors of disease. When nerve energy is lowered due to the violation of the laws of health, elimination of toxic waste is hindered. The body begins to operate under a handicap. Poisons saturate the bloodstream and lymph system, and then the descent into the disease begins. The entire body is affected by the toxic overload. The weaker organs feel the effect more strongly and break down first. It may be in the acute disease phase that the body may choose the avenue of the lungs, the nose, the sinuses to eliminate them. In degenerative diseases, the overload may result in waste being stored in out-of-the-way depots, such as your joints, your arteries, fatty tissue, in the form of tumors or cysts. Dr. J.H. Tilden, M.D., 1851 to 1940, has written a definitive book on one of the causes of all disease called Toxemia Explained in 1926. One of the first things to do to get rid of any so-called disease is to get rid of toxemia, for it is in this state of the blood that makes disease possible. Infection, drug and food poisoning may kill, but if they do not, they will be short-lived in a subject free from enervation and toxemia. Disease is a crisis of toxemia, which means that toxin is accumulated in the blood above the toleration point, and the crisis, the so-called disease, can be called a cold, this is interesting, a flu, pneumonia, headache, typhoid fever. It's a vicarious elimination. Nature is endeavoring to rid the body of toxin. Any treatment that obstructs this effort at elimination baffles nature in her effort at self-curing. So I'm always trying to assist my body in eliminating toxin. So if you have that understanding, then you're going to live with that attitude, that idea. So I'm in the sauna. Every day I'm in the sauna sweating because I'm opening up the pores of my body to eliminate toxins through the skin, right? The largest elimination organ in the body. I may be doing liver flushes. I may be doing a coffee enema. I may just do a water enema occasionally to clean out the colon. I may take some black powder. I may take some Epsom salts. Even castor oil, 2 tablespoons by mouth, can purge the bowels, all right? I have had a couple people here that I couldn't get their bowels open. They were blocked, and that's why I'm listening. And like Marjorie, I keep asking her, so how's your bowels moving? And I'm thinking about the next step I'm going to take. But this is interesting. Maybe somebody can run to the barn and ask Daniel for one of those long red enema tips and bring it here while I lecture. Will you do that? Thank you. Anyway, I order out of Mexico these red, very pliable, red enema tips, okay? And they're this long. They're about 18 inches long.
So they'll go clear into the big intestine.
You can insert the whole thing into your
I was
body.
afraid you were going to.
And I have done it, and other people. I had a man here in his 80s, and he had, from truck driving all the time, he had scar tissue in his anus and restricted flow. And he said, the diameter is so small, the doctor says, it's really, you don't want to cut it and try to do surgery on it. And so he'd have thin stools. And because of the scar, he said it was riding the tractor or something on the metal seat, it would cause scar tissue. And so I'm trying to think, okay, we may run into a problem here. We need to keep his stools very soft. And so at one point, here's what I've done. When I get somebody, they've been on painkillers, they come, they're blocked up. You get the red tip, you put a lot of Vaseline on it, and you insert it. And so you're pushing it in, and it's so pliable, it bends with the contour of the intestine, and it goes up the descending colon, and the whole thing is in you. So now if he's blocked here, I've actually pushed it in and out, in and out, in and out to break through the plug. And got it up here, and then you have ivory soap and warm water in a bucket, and you're making a soapy, soapy, soapy solution. And you put that soapy solution in the enema bag, and you get it deposited past the plug. And I find it works. They open up. Yeah, liquid plumber. But you can use soapy water. Soapy water. Gerson taught me that. It's right in the Gerson book over here. Soapy water. Okay? Yeah, pure, like an ivory white soap. And then another thing is you can deposit even up there castor oil. All right? So castor.
Coffee.
Well, you could, but right now I want it lubricated.
Yeah.
And I want a purgative reaction, let's say. But you could do coffee, but right now I'm trying to open up his bowel, right? So I'm trying to get rid of toxemia. You know, I'm using a technique that has been very effective.
Castor oil.
Okay. Castor oil by mouth, 2 tablespoons. In the Gerson therapy, they use a little diluted coffee. They mix in the castor oil. They drink it down. Then in the enema bag, they have a solution with the castor oil and the coffee, and they shake it in the bag because one's oil and one is,
Wow.
It's not castor oil from the Autotex station.
it's a plant.
Okay.
Castor oil.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is motor oil.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm trying to understand. It's not. No, it can't
You're
be.
from another country. We will excuse that.
Okay.
All right. So,
Castor oil, not castrol.
okay.
Castor.
Okay.
So you take 30 weight castor oil.
What about in the winter when it's more?
No.
Okay. So anyway, this whole thing will go up you. Very, very, very. Plus, he didn't like the hard tip that was straight on the enema bag. So this one is very soft, and it moves, and it's pointed. Little pointed. And he came out one day, 80 years old, and he said, that worked great. And I said, did you get it in very far? He said, the whole thing. He goes, I pushed it, it went all the way up, Wow. And the first place I learned about this was at Charlotte Gerson's. I really respect Charlotte Gerson. She's been one of my greatest mentors in life. I call her my adopted mother, and she calls me her adopted son. And I went to her home, and I stayed there for like 4 days. And she took me to Mexico and did rounds with all the terminally ill cancer patients at the clinic. And I asked her one morning, I said, Charlotte, I want to take an enema, a coffee enema. Do you have an enema bag? This is a Gerson house, she says, I have a bucket, and they had a bucket, a clear bucket where you can see the measurement and the amount of coffee in it so you can see it coming down. And it had a rubber tube, and that rubber tube, and then these things that you could insert the whole thing. I don't know.
The hospitals carry them.
Hospitals have them. But think about it. If you ever have somebody and you're doing a wellness thing and they're plugged up, because, as nurses, you have to dig in with your finger, hospice, and there's clay in there. And you open them up. Well, I don't want to do that. So this can insert, break through, go all the way up, put the soapy water. But that's cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
It
that's
really
better
is.
than surgery.
It is
Where did
really
you get
work. Mexico, I do. Yeah, I order them out in Mexico. So, anyway, set it here. But that works. That works. We've actually seen people use seawater in the enema bag, castor oil, and I had a hospice nurse here once, and there was a lady back there, and she was blocked. And so I said, can you try to help the woman? She said, yeah. And so there was an enema bucket, and there was seawater in it and castor oil. And she came out, and she says, you owe me. She blew. I said, did she blow? She blew. She blew everywhere. You owe me. But, so there's ways to open people up, but sometimes it's kind of fun,
That's a good word.
Yeah, but they give their own enemas because we don't do anything invasive here. People give themselves their own enemas. Okay, just look at the bottom of page 70 here. Pure, clean blood and perfect invigorated circulation yields health. So think of your walks out there in the fresh air and the sunshine. You're in the gym, you're working out. What are you doing? Perfect health depends upon perfect circulation. So circulation is critical for good health. Critical. There's times where a couple times I felt like I was getting ill, like a cold or something was trying to get me, and I went to the gym and I got on the treadmill and I just ran and sweated, and then I went into the sauna and I left and I never got ill. I just felt good. Now sometimes you feel weak, where your energy's low, and you don't want to go out and work out really hard, but listen to your body. Test it. Maybe the walking, the movement, the blood circulation, the sweating is going to be, healing. Then it says at the bottom, we have pure, clean blood, perfect, invigorating circulation yields health, versus impure, clogged blood and imperfect, inactive circulation yields disease. So, see, through the exercise, we're seeing blood sugar. The glucose is burning. The blood sugar's dropped in him, dropped over here, dropped over here. It's amazing just watching how the body can heal. All right, turn the page, chapter 10, and we're going to move into the 8 laws of health. And I want to begin just talking about fresh air. The lungs, right? You breathe in oxygen and you're breathing out carbon dioxide. And the plants take the carbon dioxide and they give us back oxygen. I did a radio show once and it was saying that the oxygen, percentage of the oxygen on the earth was like 24% and it's now 18%. So the oxygen content, the concentration of the oxygen, or the amount of oxygen is diminishing. So if you want to increase the oxygen in your home, you have fresh plants. All right? So I surrounded my property with trees. They're the lungs of the planet. So I want more oxygen. I have an ionized filter with negative ions in my bedroom. I open the windows at night. I have plants in the house. I do deep breathing exercises. Aerobic exercises is going to increase respiration, right? And so I will always work my lungs through exercise. Let me tell you a story. There's a number of stories I'm going to tell you where I learned from my own crisis, my own health crisis. And many of the crises that I have experienced have come through stress, because of stress. Stress-induced asthma. We were coming up to one of our health and healing crusades, and this is when it was 2,500 people would show up at the Lodi Grape Festival, 2,400 people. And there was 4 of us organizing this whole event. Now it's a little smaller. There's over 1,000 people, and my son is out there doing it all. And while he's running the ministry and while he's mowing lawns. He's organizing the crusade. George will help me. I'm doing it. Charmaine's doing it. We got a chef that's going to do all the food. They're going to be doing it. But what was interesting, one year the stress was so huge. The stress was so huge. Can we, that noise is going to be on the camera. Yeah, turn off the 747. But the stress was so bad. That's when my coworker's liver swelled. I came to work. He's laying on the ground moaning. What's wrong with you? His abdomen was out to here on this side, where his liver is. And it was due to the stress. He was having panic attacks during the night. And then my secretary quit right before the crusade, and never had an asthma attack in my life. Woke up in the middle of the night. If you've ever had an asthma attack, not fun. Not fun. And I was sitting there going, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? So I'm Mr. Health. I'm Mr. Natural Remedies. I can't get up off the ground. I'm on my knees, and if I exert the energy to try to even stand, it felt like it was going to shut off. I was going into respiratory rest. And I sat there praying to God. I confessed my sins. I think I'm going out. And I had been suspicious of lung problems. My mother had tuberculosis. My brother's asthmatic, and I think I genetically inherited some weak lungs. And so during the time of the crusade, I started having some distress. So I went to a friend of mine who's a cardiologist, and I said, can you check my lungs? I had pneumonia a couple times, or once in my life, and I said, I don't want to get sick right now. I have a health crusade. And so he checked me, and he says, you sound okay. It sounds okay. No pneumonia? I don't think so at all. But I'm going to give you an inhaler just in case you get in trouble. Well, he gave me a preventative. He didn't give me albuterol. He didn't give me something in case I'm in crisis. So this inhaler he gave me isn't going to pull me out of this crisis. So I had this inhaler, and I went, it didn't do anything. And I'm sitting there for 7 hours praying and trying to breathe, grabbing a few herbs, called a pharmacy, asked this medication I got, can I take more? And he said, it's preventative, it's not crisis. And I finally woke up my wife, and I said, take me to the hospital. Take me to the hospital. I could not get to the car. I had to crawl along the deck outside. I thought I can't make it. I can't make it. And I grabbed that inhaler, and I just shot it like 10 times in my mouth. I said, what do I have to lose? I'm going out. And I got a little more air. I made it to the car. They rushed me to the emergency room. They brought me in. My blood oxygen was way low. They took x-ray and said, you got pneumonia besides. So I was in the hospital for 5 days on prednisone, albuterol, I'm smoking the pipe, trying crisis intervention. And I was in the hospital 5 days. 5 days. It was, so my point is that the physicians gave me Advair Singulair, they gave me albuterol, they gave me the steroids, and they said, you're going to be on these probably the rest of your life. Now this was interesting, and I'll just interject it real quickly, but I'm talking about the importance of air, the most important nutrient we can get, okay? And when I got to the hospital, I said to the nurse, I said, I've never had an asthma attack in my life. I said, is somebody spraying something in the air, in the sky? I see all these contrails up there in the sky, all these white lines, you know. I don't know if you've ever looked at these or studied these or whatever. And you know what she said to me? She says, you know what? I agree with you. The hospital is full of first-time asthmatic patients. And those lines are all up and down Highway 99. So I said, well, maybe there's some truth to that, but I have an asthmatic attack, right? But my point is, the doctor's diagnosis was, you're going to be on these medications probably the rest of your life. Untrue, if you're the average American. So I went to work, and the thing that helped me the most was exercise. I started playing racquetball. I really started riding on that stationary bike, and I built up my lung capacity where I discontinued all medication, and that was probably 8 years ago. Never had an asthmatic attack again. And since I've been doing the cleansing and the detoxification, I notice it's even better, all right? But fresh air, you know, exercise, combining these two together are very, very important. But here it says that God called the firmament heaven. He gave us air, right? And without food, you'll die in a few weeks. Without water, you'll die in a few days. Without air, you'll die in a few minutes. Blood and cells are dependent upon oxygen. So fresh air invigorates the vital organs and aids the system in ridding itself of accumulated what? Impurities. So deep breathing outside. When I was young, I used to watch Jack LaLanne on TV, and he used to have you stand there and go, and the music would go, and he'd say, and blow it all out, and then some. Get all the impurities out of those lungs, all right? So deep breaths of air and expelling all that air in your lungs, you know, the fresh air in the mountains, the negative ions by the ocean. You know, it's so important for our health. It says here that fresh air contains negative ions which help the immune system fight disease, and the lack of fresh air causes specific problems such as fevers, colds, and lung diseases. In a book that Ellen G. White wrote, Testimonies, Volume 2, page 67 and 68, it says, the stomach, the liver, the lungs, and brain are suffering for want of deep, full inspirations of air, which would electrify the blood and impart to it a bright, lively color, and which alone can keep it pure and give tone and vigor to every part of the living machinery. So we need that fresh air for the blood. Electrify the blood. I'm looking at anything I can find that's going to teach me how to recharge my life force. Electrify. Electrify, that's a word I'm really tuning into there. Electrify your blood. Okay? And then in the morning, we recommend step outside, breathe deeply, then expel all the air in your lungs. Repeat this 3 or 4 times. Allow fresh air to ventilate in your home day and night. Exercise in the open air will promote good circulation. Air is a free blessing of heaven. So I like combining these natural doctors, running outside, taking that nice walk in the fresh air and the sunshine. You drank your water. You know, you're getting 4 laws of health. You're practicing them, you know, 3 at once. Walking, fresh air, sunshine, you know. Isn't that cool? So you're getting exercise, air, and sunshine all in one. And then a spiritual application using air or the atmosphere. In this illustration, it says, in the matchless gift of his Son, God has encircled the whole world with an atmosphere of grace as real as the air that circulates around the globe. All who choose to breathe this life-giving atmosphere will live and grow up to the stature of men and women in Jesus Christ. All right? So let's turn a few pages now, and let's go to exercise on page 76, shall we? Exercise on page 76. That'll be the next one we'll look at. Very, very good. Exercise. Okay, who likes exercise? Right? I think we all love exercise, don't we? I love exercise, and I like teaching people that pick something that you really, really appreciate, or something you really, really like to do. I like racquetball. Why do I like racquetball? Because you got to think while you're exercising. What angle am I going to hit that ball? Okay, it's coming off the wall this way. I got to be ready over here. You know, hit it hard. He's charging. You know, slam that ball. So I like the fact that, you know, you're using your mind rather than just sitting there like this and maybe listening to music or reading a magazine. I like to think. It builds my coordination and to think quickly, you know, to respond quickly. Really helps my coordination. You know, when somebody throws something at my face, now I can catch it, you know, before it hits me. Maybe a bullet. But
Or a tomato.
a tomato, right? A rotten one. But exercise is so important. And what's the benefit of exercise? What's it doing for your body?
Expanding your lungs,
Okay?
giving oxygen through your body, blood.
Increasing circulation.
Your
That's the
brain.
key. It's increasing circulation and more oxygenation. All right? So the blood flow. Your blood is moving. Also, exercise helps what? Move the lymph. The lymph to expel toxic waste in the body. Remember, your lymphatic system, when I was reading an anatomy book, there's 250,000 miles of lymphatic vessels in the body. All right? 250,000 miles. And there's not a pump like a heart in the circulatory system. The heart pumps blood. The lymph is dependent on movement. So when you get people who come to Bella Vita and their ankles are all swollen, you know,
Not moving.
they're not moving. You got to move that lymph, right? So I get them on the trampoline over there and just gently have them bounce up and down. And all the cells of the body are exercising at the same time. And the lymph system is beginning to milk the lymph, to drain to the colon, to get the waste out of the body. So I have them gently bounce while you're giving them some lymphatic cleansing herbs. And hyssop is very good. I learned that from a woman who came into the health food store, and I said, what do you buy all this hyssop for? She says, it helps with my swollen ankles, you know. So hyssop is a blood cleanser, a lymphatic cleanser. All right, so exercise for circulation, exercise for oxygenation, exercise for lymphatic flow, right? And think of this too. Your vision's suffering, your brain's foggy, maybe you have a poor libido. And Dr. Schultz always said, if you want to help an area of your body, get more blood to it. All right? So people need more blood to their head. People need more blood to their sexual organ. People need more blood, you know, circulating to their extremities, you know. So that's what's so important, is increased blood flow. You're going to decrease blood flow if you're in a high-fat diet and you're not exercising. I saw once you have two glasses. One is water, the other is oil. And you take a marble and you drop it. Cling! That's your regular good blood flow. In the oil, slowly. And that's all the fat in the blood. All right? So we want to keep our blood thin, and we do that by drinking more water, by juices. I like what Dr. Schultz taught us. He says, think of juices as a blood transfusion. You want to thin the blood is too thick, tell the person to drink more water, drink more juices. All right? Because then you're going to build the blood while you're thinning the blood, while you're cleansing the blood. All right? So, exercise. God designed that the living machinery should be in daily activity. For in this activity, its motion is its preserving power. For in this activity or motion is its preserving power. The more we exercise, the better will be the circulation of the blood. That's Ellen G. White, Healthful Living, pages 131, 132. So there's no exercise that can take the place of walking. By it, the circulation of the blood is greatly improved. Walking in all cases where it's possible is the best for the diseased bodies, because in this, all the organs of the body are brought into use, right? So it's important when you go out there and exercise that you're really moving. Move your arms. Swing your arms. Don't just walk, like this. You're power walking out there.
right.
You got a blister to prove it. She took off with you and then she left you in the dust. She took,
He was good.
And another thing too that I'll just interject right now is you don't want to expend your energy too fast if you're a cancer patient. If you're terminally ill, I said yesterday as Larry went out there, he wasn't feeling the best. I could see he was a little tired and he was trying. I just said, bless his heart. He's out there, he's all bundled up and he's just ready to go out there. And I stopped him. I said, Larry, I think today we're going to just let your battery charge a little more before you go out there and turn up the volume.
Boy, did it.
Go walk out there barefoot or do some earthing on them, Ground them to the earth. Let them go out barefoot on the pasture. I said, walk around, do some deep breathing, sit in the sunshine, and let your battery charge, and look at them today. And here's the deal. I had somebody here with kidney cancer, and he started feeling great with the cleanse. And so we went out to walk one day. I'm running. Where's the nearest highway? And he took off, and I said, you're making a mistake. Don't do this. The next day, he's on the couch. He couldn't even go out and exercise. Okay? Because he burnt the energy, the life force, that the battery was starting to charge, and this guy just turned up the volume all the way, and he ran out. He pooped out. So that's why it's important. Dr. Schultz will say, get the patient moving. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. Gerson will say, no exercise, maybe little gentle walking. I say it depends on the person and their condition, obviously. But don't try to force him to go out if you can see he's pale. He doesn't have the strength to do it.
Yeah.
You may lose ground with that person. It's very important, all right? Moderate exercise every day will impart strength to the muscles, which without exercise become flabby and enfeebled. Exercise will aid in the work of digestion. Take a walk after a meal, but no violent exercise after a meal. Morning exercise, walking in the free, invigorating air of heaven, cultivating flowers, small fruits, and vegetables is a sure safeguard against colds, coughs, congestion of the brain, inflammation of the liver, the kidneys, the lungs, and 100 other diseases. That's a powerful statement. So to ward off disease, you need to increase circulation and you need to exercise, right? So, here's another thing I'll tell you that I'll get somebody to call me up, and they were doing extremely well at Bella Vita. Now they went home. And, I don't feel as good. And I'm doing the program. And I'll say, are you juicing 7 times a day like you were supposed to? No. How many times? Well, once, twice. You doing any coffee enemas? No. And are you exercising? No. And I said, so whose program isn't working? Your modified program is not working. And then they want you to tell them what to do. And I think that, I thought about it last night. I think that's what challenges me at times when people call up and they say, this person's in the hospital and this person's facing this crisis, and what should they do? It's a program. It's a whole program.
It's a lifestyle change.
It's a lifestyle change. It's this. It's not just, as people are accustomed, here, take this bottle and that's going to fix you. You got to walk. You have to move. You have to increase bowel function. You need to get live foods. You need to have a positive mental attitude. Are you drinking your water? Are you sleeping well? See? And so there's much that a person needs to do for the body to regenerate and rebuild. Oh, you may get some improvement just giving them a bottle of vitamins. Carpal tunnel syndrome. Here's vitamin B6. Take 200 milligrams a day. Yeah, I understand that. But I also understand that the body is programmed for wellness, and it will maintain that wellness when you practice and live God's natural laws. Okay? That's your goal, always. Don't cut corners. Don't expect perfect health taking shortcuts. Don't. But I love exercise. Do you love exercise? I love sleeping. I love eating. I love a good glass of water. Right? So enjoy these wonderful gifts of health that God has given us and these laws of health. They're wonderful. You know? If physical exercise were combined with mental exertion, the blood would be quickened in its circulation, the action of the heart would be more perfect, impure matter would be thrown off, and a new life and vigor would be experienced in every part of the body. You know, I like that thought. If I want to remain healthy, then I need to practice these things. People don't want to. I mean, it really is sad to me. They don't want to. They want an easy fix. All right, to bring in a spiritual application, those who thus exercise the Christian graces will grow and will become strong to work for God. They will have clear spiritual perceptions, a steady growing faith, and an increased power in prayer. Strength comes by exercise. Activity is the very condition of life. Those who endeavor to maintain a Christian life by passively accepting the blessings that come through the means of grace and doing nothing for Christ are simply trying to live by eating without working. A man who would refuse to exercise his limbs would soon lose all power to use them. Thus, the Christian who will not exercise his God-given powers not only fails to grow up into Christ, but he loses the strength he already had. All right? So exercise. And exercise your faith in God. Isn't that beautiful? And gardening. Let me just tell you a minute. I work hard out here on this property. Does that count for exercise?
Yes.
Yes, it absolutely does. I work very hard out here in the open air, you know, shoveling, you know, hauling stuff, pruning the trees, you know, mowing the lawns. There's a lot of work that goes into this
That's a lot
place.
nicer exercise than,
Yeah, I like that.
than pumping.
Yeah, I like that too, you know, but I do enjoy working outdoors. And my body was, you know, the muscles are tightening. I was shoveling, you know, 1,000 times George and I are using that shovel and digging that compost, you know, digging that dirt, throwing the rocks into the pathway where we were building. There's a lot of muscle activity that goes into shoveling, all right? So get outside. I had a Bella Vita once, and there was a lot of, the majority of the people that came were depressed. It was kind of like, I called it the one flew over the cuckoo's nest, Bella Vita. There was a lot of psychotics that were here. I had a lady here, and you know, sitting over here, and she once rocking like this and said, "Don't take my picture, I'm ugly, I'm ugly." And another one over here had big black under her eyes, just sunken in eyes with black underneath, and her head's down like this, just depressed. A doctor of psychology over there on antidepressant drugs. And there was a number of them. Oh, don't look, don't.
crap.
I had a whole crop. And I said, what am I going to do? And so I had a brainstorm. I said, you know, I'm going to get them all outside. I need my whole patch, my whole orchard out there needs work anyway. I need the tomatoes planted. I need things. I need to get the rototillers out. I need hoeing. I need these flowers planted. I said, you know,
Work therapy.
they came to Bella Vita, but they're going to go outside. And through this therapy, I'm going to get
The best.
the yard cleaned, get the yards done, you know.
So
Just
we
being
need
funny.
everybody's happy.
So this woman over here with the sunken eyelid, she'd come out like this in the morning. And I reached over and I went, up, 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 get your head up. And I said, now say, it's great to be alive. And she goes, what? It's great to be alive. And she came with her husband who had prostate cancer. And I said, you know, well, aren't you going to do the program? She goes, do I have to? And I said, can I be honest with you? She says, yeah. I says, you need it more than anybody. And you know what she said? I am hemorrhaging vaginally. I have uterine cancer. I go, what? Uterine cancer. So at the time I'm reading this book, Emotions and Cancer. And it was saying, the psychologist, Deshan, I think was his name, and he said, you know, when you're working with these terminally ill people, he says, you know, I ask them a question, and it's this: what would make your heart sing right now? What would make you happy? And he said, sometimes I'd hear an answer like, well, I always wanted to take piano lessons. He says, then go sign them up for piano lessons. Bring joy into their life. So I tried it, and I looked at her, you know. I said, what would make your heart sing right now? And she says, to go outside and make mud patties with your little daughter. And that's where I got the idea. Go outside and make mud patties. So I took them all outside. You know, one flew over the cuckoo's nest. I started up the rototiller. I put the Dr. Psychology on it. I said, here, hold on. Whoa! She's rototilling out there all around. Then I started up this little rototiller, and I put another guy on the little rototiller. And the one over here, I'm ugly, I'm ugly, I'm ugly. I said, would you plant these beautiful flowers? Huh? Would you plant these beautiful flowers? Well, I used to do gardening. I said, well, here's a little hoe. There's some weeds. You can break up the soil. And you know, after she did 1, 2, 3, she's smiling. And then when we first got outside, here's the one with the black circles under her eyes, wants to make mud patties. And I get outside, and it had rain, so it was kind of muddy. And I go, you're it. And I took off running. And I'm going around the peach tree and the pear tree and the apple tree, and she's chasing me. She's chasing me. She's coming, ah! And she hits this mound of dirt, and she falls flat in the mud puddle. And she came up just laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing. And I found the picture the other day, and this was like 12 years ago. And she's making little patties with my daughter, who looked like she was about 3 years old, and they sat out there for 2 hours making patties of mud. And you know what? We saw a miracle at Bella Vita.
I would say so.
All the dark around her eyes went away in days. The bleeding stopped. And we saw energy. And she'd come out in the morning, and her head would go down, and she, with her own hand, would go up, 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 up. It's great to be alive, you know? So it's really important to get them outdoors, to get them in the fresh air, to get them moving, you know, and how therapeutic that was to get them exercising. To get them exercising. Isn't that great? So that's very important. So think about exercise. Are you doing it? You're doing aerobic and anaerobic exercise in the gym.
How are they doing today, that group?
It's 12 years ago. I haven't checked with them for a long time. But I do see one of them.
Okay.
She was 21 years old. That was here. And she flew to another country to help her father who had cancer, and we were emailing me and asking me questions on things to do. So it's beautiful to see how God works, huh?
That is nice.
Beautiful. All right, so let's now talk about water. Water. How important is water? You know, our bodies are mostly water, and we need to replenish this water every day. We need water constantly, and most of the water is recycled within the body itself. However, it must have a replacement of about 8 glasses of water a day. So it helps cleanse the body of waste material. It's a daily task for the body to cleanse, but not only from its own waste, but from the constant bombardment of germs and viruses, and in today's society from chemicals and drugs. If the body's not thoroughly cleansed, it's forced to break down. So water is the best liquid possible to cleanse the tissues. Drink some a little before or after a meal. All right? So the thing I tell people too, there's a book out, The Body's Many Cries for Water by Dr. Batmangian. And he talks about different symptoms that people may have, like back pain, joint pain, indigestion, headaches. And these may be signs that the body is dehydrated. All right? So it's not just thirst that we need to drink. but some of your aches and pains may be because you aren't getting enough fluid. So pure water is very, very important. I like water. You know, everybody's buying these drinks and sugar drinks, and they're taking Coca-Colas and sugar-free beverages. I just like good water. And I don't try to get it ice cold. I like it more room temperature, a little cool, right? But I drink water, and I get a lot of water, and it increases urination. So you're flushing impurities out of the body. It also helps transporting nutrients in and out of cells. All right, so we want to hydrate. So water is very important. Also, bathing is very beneficial, especially at night before retiring or upon arising in the morning. But the bath soothes the nerves. It promotes general perspiration. It quickens the circulation, overcomes obstructions in the system, acts beneficially on the kidneys and urinary organs. Bathing helps the bowels, the stomach, the liver, giving energy and new life to each. It also promotes digestion, and instead of the system being weakened, it is strengthened, and a more easy and regular flow of the blood through all the blood vessels is obtained. All right? So good water, right? What about filtered water? You know, I do not like chlorine and fluoride in the water. There's a lot written against fluoride. I did an Elijah prophecy on fluoride. Terrible. Toxic. And so I get water that's pure. You know, somebody asked me today, well, what about distilled water? You know, it's a little more acidic, and people are knocking it. Well, because there's a big push on these alkaline waters. Charlotte Gerson, Dr. Lorraine Day, myself, I always say to people, I'm not depending on my water for my alkalinity. I depend on my fruits and my vegetables. I'm a vegetarian. I'm a vegan. I eat tons of alkaline food. If my water was distilled and the pH is a little more to the acidic side, I'm not panicking about that. All right? Because you can take vinegar and put it in a distiller and get pure water coming out of it. So it removes everything. But perhaps I want everything removed out of that. Then people say, well, distilled water, you'll lose minerals in the body. I don't find that to be true at all. All right? But it is the purest form. Reverse osmosis is another form. You know, but there's concern that charcoal filters won't remove the fluoride. All right, the fluoride. So I try to get water that does not have fluoride in it. All right?
So what do you do for, like, we don't have a well.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say to the most people that come from city, or I mean, I don't live in the city, I live in the country, but we still have fluoride and
Yeah.
cool.
Get some type of filtration system, or go to one of those machines where you bring your 5 gallons and fill up your water bottles. Then check to see with the companies if there's any fluoride or chlorine in it. See what type of purification system they use.
I hear that this bottled water isn't really any better than tap water.
Well, there's different ratings on them. Dasani is one of the one she's drinking over there is one of the better ones, you know, where they'll come back and they'll say, well, maybe something like Calistoga isn't quite as good. So they test those waters to see. And some of them are reverse osmosis. They use other filtration. Some of them use infrared to kill bacteria. You know, so you want to do a little research on the water. You know, my concern is plastic. You know, thin plastic has the ability to leach into the water. So to get in the habit of, like he's using, something like this would be my suggestion, something that's metal, something like this would definitely pour your water in there, and never leave the plastic in the sun. That's where you're going to run into more trouble and get, you know, toxins leached into your water.
I used to use glass bottle, but in a truck it's a very chance to
Yeah,
break
you
all
can
the
break
time.
it.
So I use metal.
Yeah, I think the metal is the way to go. That's definitely, all right? What about water with meals and drinking with meals? Okay, it's not advised. And I'll read here. Food should not be washed down. No drinks needed with meals. Eat slowly. Allow the saliva to mingle with the food. The more liquid there is taken into the stomach with the meals, the more difficult it is for the food to digest. For the liquid must first be absorbed. The liquid must first be absorbed. all right?
And you don't end up getting enough saliva in the food to digest.
Well, you're diluting
right?
it. You're diluting the hydrochloric acid, you're diluting the digestive juices. You need to absorb the water first, as it's saying here. So that's the point. You don't want to dilute your digestive juices. You don't want to wash it down. You want to chew it well till it's a mush, all right? So many make a mistake, and I think this is a problem, where many make a mistake and they drink ice cold beverages with their meal, with all these ice cubes in it. Well, the stomach wants to warm things up. It wants to break down this food and digest it. So now you not only have all the liquid in your system, you also have ice cold. It can shock the system, all right? So drinking ice cold water with the meals is not a good idea. Water diminishes the flow of the salivary glands, as we've said already. And the colder the water, the greater the injury to the stomach. The best time to drink your water is a half hour before or an hour after your meals. A couple of large glasses of hot water first thing in the morning with lemon will assist your bowels in elimination because your sphincters are open. Your cardiac and pyloric sphincters are open, so that warm water runs right through the stomach into the small intestine, into the bowel. That's very important, all right? So it can help begin peristalsis and evacuate. I can get up in the morning and just brush my teeth, and I got to sit down and have a bowel movement. Just that activity in my mouth sometimes, of rinsing and whatnot.
How about warm water first thing in the morning? Just drink.
That's exactly what we're discussing right now. With lemon. And sometimes people will put a comment on Facebook and say, you got to be careful of the lemon for the enamel of the teeth. One simple solution is drink it through a straw. Okay? So, but try to drink about a quart of warm water in the morning with lemon. Hydrate your system, cleanses the kidneys, urinary tract, kickstarts peristalsis, okay? And you're also going to cause evacuation of the colon many times. So that's a good way to get, 32 ounces right in the first thing in the morning when you wake up, right? All right? Other benefits of water are hydrotherapy, hot and cold fomentation, steam, ice. These are all different ways that we can use enemas I have written down here. And a spiritual application, God is the source of life and light and joy to the universe. Like rays of light from the sun, like the streams of living water bursting from a living spring, blessings flow out from him to all his creatures. And wherever the life of God is in the hearts of men, it will flow out to others in love and in blessing. Isn't that beautiful? In love and in blessing. So do we have any comments or anybody want to contribute to this lesson study on fresh air, water? What else did we cover? Exercise? Yes.
For people, my mother is one of them. She suffers with diverticulitis. And that red enema, the tube from Mexico, would something like that burst those pockets? Would it damage it going that far?
Well, I don't know how thin the lining of her intestine is at a pocket, but I don't see any reason why she needs to put all that in her anyway.
Okay. So that is used for what extreme?
I used it for helping somebody who had a blockage.
Okay.
Yeah.
For truckers, huh? I'm not in that far.
Well,
so
sometimes too, when I was with Charlotte Gerson, and others that I've read, that you get the short tip that you're using, you want to get it in a little further, maybe 6 inches, and that's where that red tube can get in there a little. And
So
you
not
get the
necessarily
turn.
the whole thing. But
No, you don't need to have the whole thing unless you are doing it for a specific reason, like we said.
Just not for diverticulitis.
But it's very soft. It's very effective, and just hook it on to the end of your regular enema tip, and you can, some cases we need to do that, Even where I was taking coffee enema, let's say, and I felt like I couldn't hold it, well, I'd put it in further with that red tip and release it slower, and I had better results.
Okay.
I had better results with that. All right. Let's pray, shall we? Father in heaven, may you bless us and give us strength. And Lord, continue the healing bless us with all your healing virtues right now. Thank you for this beautiful place. And thank you for your natural doctors and your 8 laws of health. And as we practice them, Lord, give us electrical charge in our bodies that disease will be thwarted and we will not be sick. And we pray for the blessings to continue throughout these 10 days. In Jesus' name, amen.